Welcome to the Real People, Real Business show, where we're talking with business owners who are in the trenches, everyday people who are working hard and have relevant and inspiring stories that you can relate to. Everyone we speak to is actively building and growing their business and is here to share their experiences, lessons, wisdom, and guidance so you can be inspired to take action towards your own goals. Today, I am so excited to welcome Shifra Sadoff. She's a motherhood coach working with mothers around the world to help them understand and meet their babies and young children's needs. She specializes in working with families prenatal and postpartum to guide them through a transition of welcoming a newborn into their family and their baby's newborn stage. In her work with families for nearly 5 years, Shifra has developed a holistic sleep approach for mothers that looks at sleep with the bigger picture of the child as a whole and the child within the family as a whole. Hi, Shifra, welcome.
Thank you.
So good to finally have you in here. I know we had planned on getting together and talking last year, and then there was this COVID thing, and now we are finally getting a chance to meet up. And I'm so excited because I have been watching you grow for the last few years, and I am really excited about some of the stories that you can share and some of the wisdom that you can share. So maybe we can just start with you giving us a little bit of background. How did you get to where you are right now? Who are you working with? Tell me the story.
All right. So my story starts a little over 5 years ago. We just celebrated their 5th birthday when my twins were born. And I guess I should preface that with, I come from a large family. I have 6 younger siblings. I am no stranger to babies, and I figured I knew everything that there was to know. I even actually spoke with a friend who has twins herself, and I asked her if there was any preparation that I should be doing. And she pretty much told me, like, there's nothing you can really do to prepare. So, no, nothing really. So I was petrified at first and totally shocked that I was having twins because it's not in my family. But I was excited and I was like, I got this. This is going to be fine. So I had my twins. We came over in the hospital. They were fine. I was fine. And everybody was doing a whole lot of crying. I didn't know why they were crying. I was crying because I was a miserable, sleep deprived wreck. And also because I'm the type of person that likes to know how to do things. And I didn't know what was wrong with them. And I asked everyone I could, my mother, my friends, my mother's friends, people in the community, my friends who had twins, my friends who had singletons, my friends who had 7 kids, my friends who, or whatever, I guess more mentors who already had grandkids. I was talking to everybody, and nobody had real answers for me. I got answers that contradicted each other. I got answers like, oh, I just nursed my baby all night. And I was like, well, that's nice, but I can't do that with twins. And it seemed like there were no answers out there. Then I was reading and Googling and searching everything online. Long story short, I ended up becoming a sleep consultant, and that was kind of where my journey began. After my kids were sleeping well, then I became a sleep consultant. And then over the course of my work with my clients, I began seeing more and more how it wasn't just sleep, and there was so much more to the picture, so much more to what my clients needed. So before I'd even been a sleep consultant for a year, I got certified as a lactation counselor, and then I've just continued building really based on whatever my clients needed. And despite the fact that I did not think that I would end up working with newborns, I had so many clients come to me for their newborns that out of my work with them, I developed this approach to helping newborns be able to sleep well. So that is my long story, very short.
And I know that there are so many other stories inside those stories, but tell us a little bit about who you serve a very specific market.
Yes, I do. I am an Orthodox, and I work specifically with the Orthodox Jewish community. The reason being, not that their babies are any different than anyone else's, but the reason being that they tend to have more babies closer in age. So like I mentioned, I'm from a family of 9, which is not uncommon at all. I have 4 kids right now, 5 and under, also not very uncommon. So these families, I mean, it's even if you only have 1 or 2 babies who don't sleep well, it is extraordinarily difficult and can be devastating to your physical and emotional and mental health. But even more so when you're having 10 babies over the course of your 20 childbearing years, it's one after the next. And if your kids are just never sleeping well, then you're not sleeping well for 20 years. And that's not okay. And that's not healthy. And that's not normal. So really my goal is to help women who are in this situation of, and it doesn't matter whether it's, I'm working right now with a client that it's her 8th and she's already a grandmother, and another client that it's her 7th, or whether it's their 2nd or 3rd. It doesn't matter. These are tools that will enable your whole family to function better, more smoothly, and more calm and rested and happily.
Awesome. Now let's talk about this journey, because you started out as a sleep consultant, and then as you went, you learned a whole lot more about, and I think what's so important about your story is that you learned so much more about what you want and really started to build your business around what was resonating with you. And every time you kind of went off track from that, it really, you could feel it, right?
Yeah. I've been kicking myself about going off track for the last few years. Yeah, because it really did start out as just sleep, like that. It was kind of this little bubble of we need sleep, I need sleep, I need sleep, because when you're sleep deprived, that's pretty much all you can think about. But sleep doesn't just exist as something in and of itself. Sleep is always, I mean, there's, for this one child, sleep within the bigger picture of the whole child, but even especially when we're dealing with bigger families, there's this child within the bigger picture of the whole family, mom, dad, any other siblings that are there. And if we're only looking at sleep, then number one, I mean, before I became a lactation counselor, I had a client who totally lost her supply because of the work that we did together, which for me, as a mother who loves nursing and a breastfeeding advocate, that was devastating to me that she had lost her supply because of that work. And then on top of that, it's you can't only fix one piece without looking at the other pieces. You can't expect that all you're going to do is talk about sleep and ignore everything else. The mindset things, of course, there's breastfeeding, there's like the technical logistical pieces of just fitting all the pieces of your life together. It just doesn't work. So the problem was that people still do come to me and say, well, I just want your help with sleep. And when I would say yes to them, I would always regret it, because we weren't able to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish or what I wanted them to be able to accomplish.
And so you didn't dive into being a motherhood coach right off the bat.
Totally not.
This
No,
this was
it
a
was
bit of a
not the
transition.
decision. Yeah.
Yeah. And when did you finally get to that place where you're like, you know what, I can do this. I can move from being just a sleep consultant into this kind of bigger role.
Still working on it.
What I'm kind of getting at is like there was a real mindset shift in your own business, right? That when I remember the day that you finally went, you know what? This is what I want to do, and this is, I'm going to move my branding. I'm going to shift my branding so that I start serving my clients in a different way.
So it was a couple of pieces. I mean, there was I guess a piece of it was like the permission to break out of the mold and to break out of what I felt like was expected. I mean, I'm part of a community of sleep consultants, and I still am. And they're all sleep consultants, and that's all they do. And they have their 2 or 3 week sleep consulting packages, and that's all they do. So for me to go and say that, well, I don't just do sleep consulting and I don't do 2 to 3 week packages, I do 3 to 4 month packages, 6-month packages, right? For me to break out of that mold, that was it. Like I didn't know that I could, you know, and I think that it really started with my development of my newborn program, that this was my own thing. So there was no mold, and there were no rules that I had to, anything that I was expected to follow, which is funny because I'm a rebel. So why did I care? I don't know. But there were no expectations at all, because this was my own thing. And that was when I think that I was a little after that was when I was able to own it and say, really what my clients need is a 3-month package. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm giving them all of the pieces of that package that they need, and not just sleep, because it isn't just sleep.
Yeah. And I know that you're one of those people who is in that position where your clients understand the sleep consulting market, like they understand sleep consulting.
Right.
And for them, you're still, they kind of, they see you and they put you in that bucket, right?
Yes.
So I know that you've had to spend a lot of time doing a little more education, and it's fine. Like, so if you want to be a sleep consultant and you are a sleep consultant, you're a sleep consultant, and that's great. I have clients who are very, very successful as sleep consultants. This is just Shifra's way, right?
Yes.
And so you've had to do a little bit of education for your client base around why they in particular need a little bit more than sleep consulting.
Yeah. And it's something that's still happening, and still, it's, on the one hand, I do talk about sleep a lot, and on the other hand, I do talk about other things also. So it's just always trying to strike that balance of, yes, sleep is a big piece of it, but on the other hand, if I only talk about sleep, and if they're only coming to me for sleep, then well, why would they work for me for $3,000 if they can find someone else for 400,
Right.
right?
Right. So that's been an interesting challenge in your business and in selling, right?
Yeah, yeah. Right now, what we're working on is really focusing on booking clients when they're still pregnant. So from the selling angle, changing everything to be, if you're pregnant, when you're pregnant, and all of that, so that it's not even oh, my baby's already born, why don't I just wait until my baby is 4 months and I can buy your 300 DIY program.
Right. Right. Well, you've had to be very, very clear and very specific about who you want to work with, what stage they're in. And have you found that the more you target that messaging and the more you like double down on that, has it affected your sales?
It's kind of been up and down. I definitely do see that if I give an inch, and I'll be like, okay, fine, this one lady was in this tough situation, I'm just gonna hop on a call, then all of a sudden I get more. I get more inquiries I get more calls for the infants, even though officially I'm not working with them. So really energetically, when I'm putting out there, I do see it coming back. That when I say I'm only working with newborns, then those are the ones that are coming my way. I had a few months back that I worked with somebody that I'd offered her a package a long time ago, and she came back to me asking for it, and I said yes. And in the months after that, I kept getting inquiries for infants and toddlers. It was hard for me to remember to say no, for me to remember that I really don't do this anymore.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
There were a few of those conversations.
Yeah.
Now, so you're building this. I mean, what's so remarkable about you, one of the things that's so remarkable about you, is that you've been building this business with 500 children and four children over the course of the past 5 years, and you are the breadwinner, and you have built this business with very strict boundaries.
Which I did not have when I started. I worked whenever my clients wanted me to work. I had another job, but so I was kind of building this alongside my job, and I would take calls and answer emails, definitely in the afternoon when my twins, who were still babies, were sleeping, and at night. I was like answering emails all the time. Even like, I would check my business email during my break at work. I would take like a pumping break, and it was crazy. It was just like it took over my whole life. And then I mean, really, once I quit my job was when I started realizing the need for those boundaries. I really don't work when my kids are home. So
Yeah.
I actually have a dumb phone for this purpose. That is what I use when I need to make calls when my kids are home. Everything for work gets put away. I don't care if a client is calling me. I don't care if there are emails coming in. I don't care what's happening. My work time is my work time, and my home time is my home time. And it's really hard. It's really, really hard.
Yeah. So like, let's talk about how you've managed that, because I know how hard that's been for you, and seeing how you have grown and how you have managed this has just been remarkable. So like, let's talk about a little bit about some of the stuff that goes on inside the business in order to manage and maintain that. You've got boundaries, but you've also got ways of working that I think help you stay focused and stay within those boundaries.
Did you? What are you referring to? I mean, unless it's just something that I do naturally, I don't realize other people don't do it.
I think that's it. I think that you
Okay.
do things naturally in a way that is far more effective and efficient. I mean, I know that you have boundaries around your inbox, and you have boundaries around answering emails. You decided to hire a virtual assistant. You know, like the way that you work is so precise.
So, I mean, COVID has totally thrown my precision for a loop, but even with that, I'm not answering every email in my inbox. Many, I would even say most of them, my VA answers. So I don't have to worry about the main inbox as much. I'm able to focus more on my clients, and I actually set up a separate client email address so that for my clients, this is where they contact me, and nobody else contacts me there. And I request for all my clients, when we're done working together one-on-one, please don't email here anymore, out of respect for the clients that I'm working with. So that has been very helpful in enabling me to stay out of the other inbox. And then I have a very good idea of how long everything takes. I know that it takes about an hour to write a blog post. I know that I'm working on a couple bigger scale projects now, but like in terms of like my regular week to week things, I know how long approximately everything takes. So I know how long to set aside for it. And it makes me better able to manage my time, because I'm working on this like teeny tiny amount of time. I have like a 16-hour work week. So it's really not a very long period of time to be able to fit, in addition to my client work, all the marketing and back end, etc.
You've gotten good at recognizing that not everything is a priority. I remember a time where this task list, this to-do list had everything on it. And I
Yes.
know that you wanted to do it all.
I still kind of do. I just know that I can't. I can't because, number one, like physically I can't, but even more than physically I can't. When all that stuff is on my to-do list and I'm not going to be able to get it done, it's such an energy drain. It just feels so horrible to end your day with, oh gosh, here's all this stuff that I was supposed to do today and didn't get done. So I guess it's just like being more, number one, like I said before, being aware of how long everything takes, but also just being more realistic of like,
Yeah.
yeah, things sometimes take longer than you hoped they would or than you expected them to, and always book a little bit more time for everything. I think that it's going to take me 15 minutes to reply to all my client emails one day. I'm still setting aside 30 minutes. If I have that extra time, I definitely have where for that time to go. But I'm rather to put fewer things on my list and give more time to everything, rather than ending up trying to scramble and finish my work when really I'm supposed to be done working because my kids are home already.
Right. Right. And I think, it may not be obvious to you, but I think you made a lot of progress in terms of your perspective on what's urgent and what's necessary and what can be like a down the road type of thing, right? And you experimented a lot with the way that you structured your programs too, right? You moved into some group programming. Are you still serving people only one-on-one, or do you have groups as well?
So I stopped doing my group because I stopped doing just sleep. So now I did a group, and then I did a DIY together with the group twice. And now it's just the DIY. So that is no longer um, I mean, they can purchase a one-off call with me, but that's not a group program or any official structure of me working with them. And right now, my main focus is on my one-on-one prenatal mamas.
What has growth meant to you? Because I think that you're going to have a very different answer than some people that I have interviewed in the past.
Growth for me has been a lot less about my business and a lot more about me in so many areas. So many areas. I know that when I started my business, or when I was thinking about starting my business just about 5 years ago, this was the farthest thing from my mind, to be more aware of who I am and really dig into some of those uncomfortable and not so pretty parts of my life. A lot of money mindset work, a lot of self-awareness. I've just learned a lot about myself, about how my brain works. Like I mentioned, I'm a rebel. I learned that as a business owner, which I've used that so much in my regular day-to-day life. And just, being able to understand some of the potentially unhealthy ways that I used to interact with people in general, that I just learned from being a business owner, and from being forced to interact with people sometimes that I didn't have a choice with interacting with. Like, in the business coaching programs that I was part of, I was just in a group, and some people might not have been the best fit for me, but you gotta learn to get along with them for the duration of the program. And I feel like I grew a lot within myself. I really feel like I am a different person than I was before I started my business.
What did you set out to do with your business? Like, what was the impetus for, I mean, all of the signs did not point to you becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah, they
And
did.
what was the impetus? Like, what was really the driver for you?
I was just so passionate about sleep. I mean, I'm still passionate about sleep. A good night of sleep does so much for you. And for me, it was life-changing for me to see how much more I was able to be present, enjoy my kids. And that was really, I mean, it's funny because my friends all say, "Oh, it's so your type, Chaya Shifra. It's so classic you that you started a business." But I never thought it never even occurred to me to start a business in my wildest dreams. And it was just something that, well, I wanted to help people. And if I wanted to help people, then I had to run a business. So here we go, starting a business.
Because people couldn't get the help that they needed.
Because I felt like I had all of this information, or this capability to share information that could help other people. Yeah.
And it would be hurting others if they couldn't get access to all that great information, right? Do you think there's an element there of compassion that your business was built out of, that desire to communicate and to help people move out of the place that they're in?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's actually very fascinating, because when I was in high school, and I went to a very small private high school, there were only 9 girls in my class. We had a teacher who did an exercise with us of pretty much working out, like, what our soul's purpose is in being here, using the strengths that we have and using our passions. What are we supposed to do? And we went through it as a class, and then she pointed out, comparing my answers to one of my classmates' answers, she pointed out that my classmate wanted essentially, like, let me clothe everyone, let me feed everyone, let me heal everyone. And she actually went to nursing school. And I was, let me teach everyone, let me inform everyone, let me make their lives better by helping them learn new things. And here's what I'm doing. This was always something, like me helping people through teaching them was always something that I was passionate about, and was always something that I feel like my soul was driven to do.
So here's where I'm getting at with you, and what you just said, because I think this is something that a lot of business owners struggle with, is that this tension between when our businesses, a lot of us come into our businesses they're built because we want to make an impact, right? We want to help people. We want to give somebody something that that they need.
Right.
And we do that for a while, and then we start to realize that there's an element of what we need too, right? Like I talk about alignment all the time in our businesses. And
Right.
when those two things don't necessarily match, and I know you've come across this in your business, and I have too, there's a whole bunch of people who are really early stage. And in my one-on-one coaching, I serve people I've chosen to serve people who are a little bit further along, but I still have this desire to serve the people who need, like, they still need the help, and they still need what I can give them. And I find that there's always that tension there, because it doesn't work for me yet. I still want to be able to do that. So how do we find that place? How do we either make peace with the fact that we can't serve everybody, and that we do have to make our businesses work for us? Or is it our duty to give what we can give to everybody who needs it?
It's an interesting question. I think a little bit of both, meaning if you're, let's take what I do, for example. So for me, working with clients to sleep train their babies is just out of alignment for me. I have information that, hang on a second, before I say this, because it's out of alignment for me, I will not be able to give those people what they want. I just won't. Even if I put all of my everything into it as much as I can, they are going to be shortchanged by working with me because I'm out of alignment with it. But that doesn't mean that I can't share information. So I've got things that I created a long time ago. I have my free guide that I created 3 years ago when that kid who keeps bothering me was a newborn. So like and that was when I was still doing sleep training, and I still have that resource available. So I'm not going to not have it be available anymore just because I'm not doing it. Let them access that. Let them download that. Let them read the stuff on my blog. Like, I have a lot of resources. It's just, it's not helpful for me to work one-on-one with those clients, because aside from the fact that it doesn't work for my life, it also isn't going to be helpful for them. So I think a little bit of a combination. Number one, make peace with it, and like, just be honest with yourself. Like, why are you still chasing after them, or letting them chase after you? Which, it can be painful, that brutal honesty, as we've spoken through a couple of times, of what's underneath that. But I think also it's good to recognize that, yes, you want to help them, and right now the most helpful thing for them is not to work with you.
Oh, I love hearing you say that.
It's easier to
it's,
say it than to do it, though. It's always
it's
easier to say
totally.
it.
Now, you've made a lot of investment in your business.
Oh, yes.
You have intentionally put yourself into like a learning role, and you have looked for the support. So tell me a little bit about that, because not everybody is wired that way.
So, like I said at the beginning, I'm the type of person that likes to understand things, likes to know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and how to do it. That's part of what gave me the shove to do the research that ended up having me start my business. But that being said, I also had lots of money mindset issues when I started my business. And numbers and anything more than 3 digits was really scary for me. It was really, really, definitely more than 4 digits was scary for me. It was a process of learning how much more there was to learn, and recognizing the value in learning that. For people who aren't inherently, these seeking information type of people, it's you have to be ready. You have to be ready to humble yourself and say, I don't know everything, and someone else has something that I can learn from. And you also have to be ready to try new things that might be uncomfortable, but when you do them, you will accomplish more than you would have been able to before you did that. And invest time, money, and energy. So I won't say it's been easy. I'm on all fronts. Like the work that I was doing, the money that I had no idea where it was going to come from, the all of the self growth that I've made as a business owner. Right now, it feels really great to say, "Oh wow, I grew so much." But at the time that it was happening, it was uncomfortable. It wasn't fun. It wasn't pretty. I cried a lot. So I mean, it's not going to be comfortable through the process, but since when is it comfortable to change? Nobody likes change. But if we choose not to, then we just stay where we are. So that's a choice that you're making.
And what has the support that you've gotten, in terms of community, in terms of membership in communities of like-minded people, how important has that been to you progressing and moving your business forward?
It's interesting because I would say in the beginning, it was very, very important knowing there were people who were in similar situations to myself, going through similar challenges, being able to bounce ideas off of people. But as I've grown, not only in my own knowledge, but also in my understanding of myself, like it's not just about running a business, but being able to have the tools to tune into myself more, I find more and more that I'm able to access the answers from within myself. I still I still do rely on those communities, and knowing that I have, like you said, other like-minded business owners, that things still come up. I still don't know everything, right? That I can turn to. But I think one of the and I definitely got this from a group setting, watching other people be coached and being able to be an outsider, neither the coacher nor the coachee, coach, I guess, coach and coachee, it helped me be able to see some of that dynamic that enabled me to play both of those roles for myself.
Yeah, and I think that you have moved to a place where, what you needed a few years ago in order to, you know, feel like you were a real business owner. I think that's, you've matured in that mindset for sure. And now that you're a little bit further along and you're 5 years in, what kind of support do you need now as opposed to what you had before?
It's an interesting question. I don't know. It's always helpful to have a community of people who have learned the same methodology that you have, the same skills that you have. That's always helpful. I always like to compare business coaching to I'm not a business coach, but I still compare it to different types of martial arts, that they all work and they're all valid and they are all great. But if you only ever get 2 or 3 belts in every single type, you're not getting anywhere. What you want to do is you want to find the one that's right for you, and you want to get yourself to black belt. So yes, it's nice to have, like, these huge communities of business owners, like boss moms, mom boss, I forget what it's called, Dana Malstaff. Those kinds of communities are great to, like, crowdsource, like, hey, what is, a teaching software that, or a platform. So these bigger groups can be good for, like, those more generic questions. But when it comes to real questions that come up in your business about running your business, then it's always important to have that group of business owners who can look at it from the same perspective that you are, who can draw on the same tools, knowledge, and understanding that you are. So having that group is always important. And I don't know that it's always necessary to be working one-on-one with a coach, but definitely intermittently, every other year, every third year. I don't know. I've been working constantly with a coach for the last 3 years, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been 3 years. But I'm at the point that I feel comfortable saying, okay, and I'm going to let go and do some on my own.
And I think that that's important. I think that, and I am a coach and I would recommend that people go in phases, right? You need that time to integrate. You need that time to like do your push, do your rush. And I was so happy to hear that you were going to go out on your own for a little while because you have everything that you need. And now you need to go out there and then when you're at your next phase, whatever that phase might be, then maybe you bring somebody in to help you kind of enter that phase. Or if you're going to know, right, when there's a little bit of tension or there's friction or there's something that you're kind of stuck wondering about a lot. But I'm not an advocate of just forever, maybe with certain people, but forever having a coach in your back pocket, because I think that you don't develop the trust in yourself.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You mentioned something just a few minutes ago about money mindset, and we're just diving into that this week within my group. And you are someone that comes to mind who did some really intentional work around money mindset. Do
Yes,
you do you want to talk about that a little bit?
sure. Um, I I didn't even realize it was money mindset. I thought it was just I was being pragmatic about money and practical about money. But when I was pregnant with my twins and I went grocery shopping for fruits and vegetables, and it cost, I'm not exaggerating, $40. $40. And I was like, in addition to the fact that I was usually tense around money, I knew I had an unpaid maternity leave coming up. And I don't know what it was, if I'd never gone grocery shopping before, if I was hormonal from the twins. I just remember I came home and I was sobbing about how expensive it was, and what were we going to do when I was on mat leave and I wasn't making any money. And I just felt a lot of internal pressure about money. And it wasn't until about a year and a half later that I learned about what I call my inner starving Russian grandfather. And the reason that I call it my starving Russian grandfather is that I have a great grandfather, he's no longer alive. For a long time, he hasn't been alive, but he grew up in Russia pre and post Russian Revolution at a time when everyone was literally starving. But he was an orphan. I don't remember exactly how old he was, but definitely by the time he was 9 or 10, he was an orphan. And he did not have any siblings from both his mother and his father. He only had half siblings that were his father's kids and not his mom's kids. And they were all starving, and their children were all starving. And nobody wanted to feed him because nobody had food to feed him with. He came to America and he started from scratch, and he worked very, 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 very hard and created a life for himself and for his family. But despite the fact that we are not in the difficult situation, has definitely filtered down into the way I think, into the way my family thinks. I see it in my siblings, I see it in my mom. It just comes up a lot. Once I started realizing that and I started noticing some of those patterns within myself, and I started noticing how it was really, really scary to notice how many decisions I make in my life were actually not being made by me, but being made by my starving Russian grandfather. I decided, like things in my business, things in my personal life, that I thought that I was being rational. I thought that always comes up when you have a money mindset thing, right? You're just being rational. I thought I was being pragmatic. I thought that I was being wise with my money or whatnot. And really underneath it all was this huge fear that what if? What if we don't have food to eat tomorrow? What if we all just starve? What if this business just doesn't work out and I'm only left with a bunch of debt and former clients?
And I think that the other interesting piece about the money is not just how you were considering like expenses, but also how you were deciding on your pricing. And that's something we're talking about in the group today. And so it would be really interesting to hear about some of the thoughts that you went through in terms of setting your pricing with that mindset piece.
Well, if I can't afford it and we're going to starve, then definitely no one else can afford it because they're going to starve, right? Get out of your client's wallet, get out of their bank account. That's their job. They're adults. They can take care of that. That was very helpful for me. But another piece of it came up with, almost this like pride to be poor of like, well, rich people are, they overspend and they spend money on things that aren't important and they're obnoxious and snobby besides. So of course I don't want to make money, right? That once I was raising my prices, that definitely came up a lot.
Yeah, you've made a lot of progress on that regard. And I remember how much you went through to get to accepting your pricing. And we're going to go live after this call with today's challenge exercise, which is all about your pricing and this decision tree and where it all comes back to at the end. But I think, some of the people would really benefit from hearing some of the commentary around how you have worked through that. So what's next for you?
Working on my book. The manuscript was supposed to be done in December, but not done yet. I was expecting school to be more regular than it has been, to be totally honest, as you can see. So right now I'm focusing on working on finishing my book and I'm getting that published once I finish the manuscript. And what is next beyond that? I don't know. I guess we'll see. Like right now, I'm very happy with what I'm doing with the clients that I'm focusing on serving. I probably will put more energy at some point in the future into my DIY course to turn it into a source of, and I'll put this in scare quotes, passive income that isn't really passive because I have to put work into making it passive income. So clearly it's not passive. Focusing on my book, focusing on branding myself as that lady you call when you're pregnant.
Yep. Totally.
So that's where I am right now.
Awesome. And so we're getting close to time, but I want to know from you, what's the one thing that you wish you had known before you got started?
That businesses don't just happen, that it's not like you put up your shingle and everyone's just going to come. And also that my business won't, shouldn't, and can't be the same as anyone else's. So when I got trained as a sleep consultant, I was told that I would get a business in a box, which is a nice idea in theory, but doesn't really work in practice. You need it to be your own business in order for it to be successful.
Awesome. You know that I can get behind that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're coming to the end of our time. I want to thank you for spending the time with us today. Can you tell all of our listeners how they can find you?
I am on Instagram at Chaya Shifra Sadoff. And I also have a website, chayashifra.com. I'm not really on Facebook. Instagram is better.
Awesome. Okay, good. Well, we'll put everything in the show notes and people can find you there. But I love everything that you have to say. And I have loved following your business all the way through until now and going forward. And I'm super excited to see what you do next because you've always been so thoughtful and intentional about the work that you do. And I think a lot of people can learn from you. And that's a wrap for this episode. Such an amazing conversation. Make sure to go and check out Chaya Shifra and her incredible work. And thank you for tuning in to hear this story. The episodes that you're listening to are all featuring members of my free private Facebook group called the Real Deal Business Coaching Group, where we have daily prompts to keep you focused on building your business, sharing everyday challenges, monthly challenges to focus in on some of the aspects of business that are areas that we really need to develop, bi-weekly chats, open coaching, member support, and everyone we focus on is totally real. And you would have seen from our interview today with Chaya Shifra that we're all just like living our lives and we're all just real and in these situations. And we can just keep going, right? We can absolutely keep going. If you'd like to join our community or if you'd like to be featured on the show, I would love for you to come and hang out with us in the group. Links in the show notes or search up Real Deal Business Coaching in Facebook to find us. And finally, I would love to invite you to join us for our next episode where we're going to be speaking to yet another real business owner who has an amazing story to share. So thank you for being here. And if you have enjoyed today's content, I would love for you to give us a review on whatever platform you're listening to us on. This helps us share these stories with an even bigger audience. And so until next time, keep building, keep dreaming, and keep being real.